I'm a climber. At the moment, I'm working in the massive city, London, in the middle of winter, in the wet, in the cold. And quite often my mind wanders back. Southern Africa is a mixing pot of culture, people, landscape, all mixed together. It creates a fascinating place. I really miss being in Southern Africa. It's hard to explain. A few months ago, I had the pleasure of showing off Southern Africa's climbing to Alex Honnold. He's a pretty good climber. A couple of us took him around to show him some of our rock. Here we are at the airport, Walvis. Alex is late. I don't think he knows what I look like, so he'll just be guessing. He'll be like, geez, who am I going to meet? Some dodgy character. I know what he looks like. I've seen a couple of movies with him. He's skinny, dark hair. Welcome to Africa. How was your flight?
Long.
Long. We go find some rock.
Heck yes.
Yeah.
Heck yes. I'm basically coming to South Africa just because it's somewhere new, it's somewhere exotic, it's somewhere exciting. There's good climbing, but more importantly, it's like diverse cultural experience. It's like somewhere totally different for me. I haven't been on like sand dunes since I was like a little kid or something. My expectations for this trip are to do a lot of climbing, to see amazing new places, hopefully to see some very exciting animals, like an African safari with more rock climbing. I'm like, peaceful desert with just the sound of a helicopter and all my 15 friends filming. Allard is a great climbing partner. He's super experienced. He's climbed all over. He's established tons of new routes. I mean, he's fun. He has a good sense of humor. I mean, he's anything you would need in a climbing partner.
So what do you think of the wall, eh?
Oh, it looks amazing. Pretty legit.
I've been visiting Spitzkoppe for 15 years, fairly regularly. We've opened quite a few new lines on Spitzkoppe.
The brown streak? The brown water. Oh.
The route, nothing in moderation, was a line that I spotted and I wanted to climb back in sort of 2000. Mark Searing and myself came back in 2001 and we spent a week on the route. Hauled the driller, placed a couple of bolts and then figured out the route would go. And we figured out, this is going to be a pretty special route. Then,
rad.
No, it zigzags
like
a little bit.
That's a nice line.
Wakey, wakey. Oi, Alex. Muesli. Shoes, harness, rope, drawers, water, snacks.
The line isn't that striking because it's sort of like this weird system that's kind of like folds into the side of the mountain. And so you're like, oh, it's interesting looking, but it's not like the proud straight line. But then when you climb it, it's like these super cool cracks, really interesting climbing. And then it's not just that they're like good cracks, but the actual cracks are like smooth and really comfortable on your hands. So it's actually like fun to climb. It feels good.
Oh, Alex is running up here.
Climbing through this tree, I felt like I was in my grandma's garden or something. As a kid, like she had a big old fig tree like this. Nothing in Moderation does have like a lot of variety on it, but I think my favorite was probably the middle, like these 3 crack pitches in a row that are all like really interesting, lie-backing, underclinging, like just interesting moves, pretty cool.
How's it looking?
Oh, it's super nice.
Good.
It's like really fun. I mean, the whole route for the most part is one long crack up until the crack runs out and then you have to face climb to the top. So basically the entire crack system is really cool. And then the face climbing, it's nice, but it's not the money.
A couple of months before, I was taking off with my speed wing. On takeoff, I was running, and I stepped into a ditch and I broke my foot. So when climbing at Spitzkoppe with Alex, my foot was in suboptimal condition. I suffered a bit. Watch me getting solid. Oh, fuck.
I wasn't that surprised that he fell off, considering the whole time he's like, ah, ah, oh, nah. And then, you know, it's like, obviously he's gonna fall at some point.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I just slipped.
The whole route, he sounded like he was, you know, passing a kidney stone or something. But he's coming off a broken ankle and stuff. I mean, he's probably not, like, in the best shape of his life. Sound like you just went to war.
I did. I went to war.
Climbing with Allard has been awesome here because he knows the area so well. He knows the history, he knows the routes, he knows how to get to them, he knows how to climb them, he knows how to get off of them. If I was here by myself just looking at the guidebook trying to figure out where everything is and how to do it, you know, it'd be a lot more involved. But having him here is just like having the cheat sheet. There was one aid pitch on the route that, you know, had just been bolted as a bolt ladder. And it turns out there were holes on it though, so I found a way to kind of go around and weave through the bolts, and it turns out it goes free.
We did the first free ascent. Well, Alex did the first free ascent. It's fairly committing because you clip a bolt and then instead of following the bolt ladder up, kind of got to down climb a bit and then you got to climb up and you're actually quite far from the bolt and then you kind of climb up on really, really small, sharp edges.
Heck yeah. Oh yeah.
It's kind of closed chapter on this climb. Like, it's great. I'm super psyched. Unfortunately, I committed to this job in London, so I couldn't take Alex to all the places I wanted to. So I handed over the baton to Clint Martiningo, very strong South African climber. He's a really good sport, really good on trad, has opened a lot of hard routes in Southern Africa.
Climbing with Alex Honnold is pretty cool, awe-inspiring actually. Really down to earth, like a genuinely cool guy. This morning, Alex and I soloed up a route called Desert Rose, basically pure friction, really on angle. Looks really easy from the ground, and grade-wise it should really be a doddle. And for Alex, it was a doddle. For me, it was a different story.
He doesn't like soloing. And Alex is a world-class soloer. Yeah, Clinton did a bit of a wobble.
I looked up and like Alex was gone already. It's halfway up the route already. If you just keep going, your feet stick, you don't really need to worry about it. But the minute you start thinking about placing your feet, it just becomes this mental block. And I was having a bit of a meltdown. So he says to me, it's just about trusting your feet, which pretty much it is. Yeah, it's all like mental, eh?
I know, it is all mental. Especially this kind of thing, it's all scary because it's like, there are no holds for your hands or feet. You just gotta trust them.
So I look across to him and he's on way steeper ground than me, and he's standing there with his hands off the rock, just looking down at me. I'm like, fuck.
Oh yeah.
That route looks so low angle, it looks like it's gonna be really easy. But then when you start climbing it, you're like, oh, I mean, it is a little bit scary. Like, and you know, he found out.
I've been climbing for about 20 years, and yeah, in that time I've done very little soloing. Definitely not my forte.
All my early rock climbing was indoors in a gym around where I grew up in Sacramento. Even before I started climbing in the gym, I climbed trees, I climbed buildings, I climbed other stuff. And so like climbing in the gym was sort of just an extension of like all the playing around that I was doing anyway. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I never really had a realization that I wanted to be a professional climber or anything like that. All I wanted to do was go climbing, and that's all I did. I just climbed a lot, and then it sort of like evolved into this profession.
Seeing the Bushmen is pretty impressive, just like seeing how they live. It's just impressive to me that they choose to live in the desert with nothing. You know, forage with little berries and trap guinea fowl and things like that. But they seem so content.
Two and a half hours east of Johannesburg is Waterfall Boven. Waterfall Boven has this beautiful red rock with good edges and an amazing selection of routes from real hard to real easy.
Waterfall Boven is basically South Africa's premier sport crag, and some of the more fun sport climbing I've done anywhere. Real scenic and just a fun style. Sandstone, but nice edges, just perfect crimping.
I arrived the night before the annual rock rally, and I was teamed up with Andrew Headley, who established like most of the routes here. He's just a prolific new router who's like kind of pushing South African climbing.
Today in Waterval Boven is the annual rock rally, which is a massive gathering, or like 100 plus, maybe 200 people coming from around South Africa to do a lot of climbs on these cool crags, as many as they can do, and we have a big party.
Basically all the climbers get together, we have a little competition, and there's always something different happening. Music festival, night climbing, rock stars, climbing stars to come and join and make it interesting and spice things up.
It's aimed more at the middle of the range climbers. So Alex was at a bit of a disadvantage.
It's a handicap competition, so it's not necessarily the strongest climbers that win the comp.
For the rock rally, Andrew pretty much made this awesome list of like all the most classic routes, you know, at several of the different areas. I was like, uh-oh, I hope I can do all those.
It's a rock rally, anything goes.
One of my favorite things about the rock rally was having Andrew giving me all this beta on all the best routes, and then having other people giving their suggestions. And then just the nature of the day, like trying to do a bunch of hard routes in a day, meant that I just climbed quickly and efficiently, and so I wound up like climbing my best, you know? And I mean, it's always just nice to climb your best. I was like, whoa, this place is amazing. You know, like some of the best rock I've ever touched. I was like, this is really good.
With Alex, the thing that's so apparent is he's just solid all-round package. Like there's not a crack, it's flawless.
The thing about the rock rally is that it's scored on a handicap system. So basically the harder you climb, the less likely that you'll be able to do well in the rally. Because it kind of takes like your hardest red point ever. Anyway, Andrew and I basically got crushed in the rally. Which is kind of funny though, because we both had like amazing days of climbing.
I've got like every single video of Alexander. Like
Yeah, we've got posters of that on our wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's a legend.
That's it. Come on, Alex. Come on. That's it. Come on. Come on. Good effort, man. Good effort, man. Nice, dude.
Hazel Findlay has come and joined me in Boven for the last 3 days of climbing or something. She's an old friend, and I mean, it's super nice to climb here. So it's been cool.
I grew up in the UK. My dad taught me how to climb on the sea cliffs of South Wales, and I've been a professional climber for the last 2 years. I was about 7 the first time I went climbing. I just remember going out for sort of adventurous weekends with my dad and half really enjoying it, half being really scared. I climbed a lot in the gym when I was younger as well, mostly on my own. When I started climbing, my biggest mentor was probably my dad.
Yeah, I didn't even have climbing mentors or anything.
Alex didn't have any friends.
I mean, that's
until
very
he
true.
met me, so
I still don't have any friends. Yeah.
The rock is really good. It's this beautiful orange colour, sometimes red, and it's super solid. Before coming on this trip, whenever I said to someone, oh, I'm going to South Africa, they immediately thought I was going to Rocklands. And it seems like everyone knows about the bouldering in South Africa, but not really that much about the sport or the trad climbing. And so because of that, you think maybe it's not that good, but really it's just sort of like a hidden gem, and the climbing's amazing.
Climbing with Hazel is actually really good. She's a really great all-around climber. I mean, she's actually the hardest female climber in Britain, which is pretty impressive.
You get annoyed when I lose things.
It's only the scattiness. You mean to do Hazel impersonations? Where's my Kriegery? Where are my shoes? I have 2 left sandals? God damn it.
I generally quite enjoy climbing with Alex. He can be, he's a really honest person, and sometimes that's really good, and sometimes it can be a bit much. You know, if you're having a bad day and you know you're not climbing very well, you don't really need to hear your mate telling you you're not climbing very well either. So yeah, you know, that can be a little bit difficult, and he doesn't take any weakness lightly. You know, it's, you should do another route, you should do another pitch, you should have tried harder, a lot of that. And so it can be a bit annoying, but it's good because, you know, I think he pushes me quite a lot, and that's a good thing.
Good effort.
He doesn't even give you an inch.
No, I don't give you an inch. You're a professional climber. You're supposed to represent for the brand, you know? I nominated myself as the future team captain, so anytime Cedar doesn't want to go to the gym with me or
If you're
something.
team captain, I'm moving brands.
Well, that's fine.
For sure.
That's fine. We'll be happy to see you go.
You're a little bit too honest sometimes, I'd say.
Yeah, probably.
It's a bit annoying.
I could lie to you more.
Yeah, I'd be like that.
You're looking particularly pretty today. I don't know.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
I feel better already.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Gustav took us to the Township, which is right above the climbing at Waterfall Boven, and everyone was really friendly. It felt quite welcoming.
I mean, mostly the experience was just like all these crazy ladies singing and dancing super loud, and it was a Heritage Day, so they're all dressed up in like full traditional style.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think Alex was a little bit scared.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, quite the little dinner experience. It was kind of fun.
We tasted some amazing barbecued chicken. Alex is a supposed vegetarian, and he even had some of the chicken and quite liked it.
It was such a crazy experience with like all these people eating chicken, and it did smell pretty good, like good barbecue and stuff. And so I took like 3 bites of it just to see, and it was actually quite good with the nice seasoning and nice barbecue stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
It would be a bit more fun if He took the same attitude to his drinking. I'm not a drinker, and then drank once in a very while.
Yeah, I've never drank alcohol, I've never drank soda, I don't drink any. I just don't really like it, I just think it all tastes gross. Why get into beer? Then I wind up a little overweight, like.
Blouberg is this amazing 400-meter rock face. If you're carrying a heavy pack, it's 4-hour hiking. You generally sleep in a cave.
It feels like this crazy exposed cliff just in the middle of nowhere. Even though there are small communities dotting the landscape, but still it feels like you're really far out there.
You see the mountain like a blue haze, hence the name. From quite a way off, the mountain grows out of the haze and it becomes more distinct, and it just looks like a really awesome wild place to be.
One of my favorite things about Blouberg is you can be climbing way up there, beautiful exposure, and the Cape vultures fly past, and they fly fairly close to the cliff. And you can just hear the wind on their wings as they fly past you.
The weather on Blouberg was interesting. I mean, in some ways it was totally heinous because it was like blowing wind and mist and like kind of grim conditions, but really like actually wasn't that bad. You know, there wasn't a day that we couldn't climb. It was actually better conditions than if it had been full sun, because then it would have just been unclimbable. It would have been way too hot. I mean, the main thing is like the blowing mist is just hard for motivation because it's hard to get out of your tent. But then once you got to the base of the wall was dry, the rock was dry. I mean, conditions were actually fine, but it was just hard to like get moving. When it's so much easier just to lay there and read and be like, I don't want to get out of bed.
I got this route in Blouberg called Dog of Thunder, which haven't quite yet been able to free cleanly, and I asked Alex if he would be interested in helping me go and open it. Climbing with Alex on a big wall like Dog of Thunder was pretty inspiring. He's pretty strong and really fit, so he can do a lot of hard pitches, one after each other, and not get tired. He also likes to link pitches, so basically he is linking 2 pitches every time he led a pitch. As a result, you just climb the walls a lot faster. Traditionally, the way we climb in South Africa, we generally do quite short pitches and always like stop at sort of like a ledge or something to belay, where Alex will just carry on until he runs out of rope and then sets up a stance.
So there are 3 like crux pitches on Dogs of Thunder. They all kind of make up this one head wall that's just like one big shield of overhanging rock, and then you just kind of break them into sections where it's appropriate. but they're sort of all the same style of climbing. They're all like gently overhanging and sort of edging up this wall. The middle one is by far the hardest because it's just like a blank piece of rock with some very small edges up it that you just claw your way up. I think it was my favorite maybe just because it was the cleanest, you know, it was the most aesthetic piece of climbing on like all of Blouberg, I think.
Watch it. Oh, god damn it. I broke the undercling. Ah. God damn it. That's fun.
I'd asked Alex prior to climbing if I could have first go at this pitch because just so I could like do the first ascent. The pitch is fully bolted. There's no place for trade gear in that, and some of the bolts in the wrong place, so they're really hard to clip, especially if the drawers aren't in.
Oh, fuck.
Just watch. Fuck. Nice, Alex, come on. Right foot up onto small smear. Yeah. Yeah, match. Awesome. Come on. Easy. Good job, man.
Ooh.
Who is that?
That was a good pitch.
My next go after Alex did it, I did it like fairly comfortable. It was a little bit tricky, but it went a lot better. I was pretty glad to actually have freed that pitch because now I've freed all the pitches at one time or another, and it was really cool that me and Alex did like a complete free ascent of the route, ground up.
It was nice going back with Clinton and seeing him just like hike the route. Everything went perfectly. I got to climb it. It's so like, you know, we opened this great new route, and it's really cool.
I can see where you're going.
The following day, Alex basically went off on his own and solo route up the center of the main wall, just by himself on site. I think it's quite a bold thing to do. There's no ways, well, I definitely wouldn't be doing that.
So I soloed 2 different routes on Blouberg, and technically I was going to climb specific routes, but in practice, because the climbing is so varied and it's just a big face and there are no real like features to aim for, I basically just climbed straight up whatever looked good.
I can see where you've been, and I can see how you returned with all the things that you learned. And
the main wall of Blouberg, it basically faces north. At the highest point is 400 meters high. It's quite messy, I think, to look at, but the climbing is really good.
You've just got to see him climb to know that he's like a really careful climber. Like, I think that's what makes a really good soloist, is that it's someone who's like very aware of how hard they can climb and what exactly they can do and what moves they can do before they've even done them. And he's really good at reading the rock, and he's really good at knowing what he can do. And because of that, it just makes a great soloist. And a great soloist is someone who doesn't fall off.
When somebody asks me why do I solo, I mean, I guess the answer depends on how much time they have. You know, like in a general sense, I solo for the same reason some people play a violin, you know, or like do other things that are sort of challenging and sort of weird, but, you know, they enjoy it, obviously, they're good at it. Like, you know, everybody just kind of finds their thing that they like to do. You know, to me, there's no higher form of climbing, let's say, but that's why, to me, it's nice to know that I can solo some kinds of routes or whatever. You know, like once I solo a route, I can kind of write it off as like, okay, I've, you know, mastered, I've ticked that box, you know, like I'm done with that, like I can definitely do that. I mean, I guess it's just like anything else in life, you know, you sort of get out of it what you put into it.
You said that you could walk down from Blouberg on your own.
I did walk down from Blouberg on my own, didn't I?
And that you knew the right way and that you wouldn't
I didn't
lose
say that.
the path.
I said that I was going to have an adventure.
This is quite a big walk up to the mountain. It's pretty steep and you go basically through this sort of forest, but the forest is crisscrossed with cow paths, so you never actually know which path to take, and it's pretty crucial that you get the right path, or you'll get totally and utterly lost. Even people that have been going to the mountain for a number of times and know the route pretty well always end up getting lost.
I was like following the real trail thinking that it was going into the wrong valley, and I got kind of confused, and then I like quested basically all the way back around the mountain, really, really far away, until I realized that I was like out in the middle of nowhere. I was like, oh no, and then quested back along a different route, then basically turned like a 2-hour hike into a 5-hour hike, and was like, well, it's kind of a long walk. Good adventure though, and now I know the mountain pretty well. And I saw a lot of wildlife, I saw a lot of thorn bushes. I cut my eyeball with a thorn. Tore my shirt and my pants and got quite sunburnt and got really, really thirsty. Yeah, it was a really nice day.
We had to wait for like 4 hours for him, and then he arrived and he looked like he'd been on some kind of like spiritual journey.
I did. That was the whole point of going on an adventure.
You look close to death.
I was quite tired.
I like Cape Town. I like the whole scene. I like the fact that there's climbing like in town, that the town feels all metropolitan. There's like a whole vibrant community, but then there's also climbing right there. It's like a really cool combination of like urban with nature.
Everyone told me that Cape Town was going to be beautiful and really nice, but I didn't really expect it to be as nice. I mean, it's such a gorgeous place with the mountains and the sea.
Cape Town is the place for me. Cape Town, I love you so. Kimberley is very nice, you know. And Blouberg is pretty, and so is Durban City. But is Cape Town the place for me?
For climbers, it's a fantastic place to live. You've got the big city, 15 minutes up to the car park by car, and you can be on the mountain. You can either catch the cable car to the top, or you can hike an hour. You can get some good climbing, good exposure, all in an afternoon.
Table Mountain is a cool style of climbing in that everything is climbable. All the faces, there are just holds everywhere. The rock is super hard, super featured, like everything goes. So I mean, it makes for just like kind of exciting climbing. You can have an adventure just questing up some face.
It's just like gorgeous climbing. It's like such nice holds, good length routes. A lot of people really like to climb routes that follow a line, and that does add something. But I think that, you know, when you're actually climbing a route, you don't care if it goes up a line. It's whether the movement's nice or not, and just enjoy it. And then obviously, like, adventure is a different thing as well. It's fun to climb adventurous routes. I've always thought that like dealing with fear is just a matter of how much you want to do something. You know, I go through phases in my climbing where I'm not as psyched as I am, you know, a few months ago or something, and my psyche sort of wanes and grows. And if I'm in like a bit of a psych trough, I'll get more fearful because my desire to do the route isn't that great. So I don't know, I always think about fear as just how much do you want to do something? If you really want to do it, then you won't be afraid. I was a bit worried about my finger. I pulled my finger warming up on it the day before. I've never really had a finger injury before, so I don't really know what to do about it.
There you go, but make it like skinny.
So now should I go up?
So here, do one more.
Warming up on double jeopardy, which is 30. Probably wasn't a good idea in the cold.
You kept blaming it on the circus. So Hazel and I went and visited the Zip Zap circus school that takes, well, any kids, I guess, but especially like underprivileged kids and kids from the township and kids in need, and basically teaches them circus skills and like rigging skills and lighting, and just teaches them the whole circus experience.
It just seemed like a really cool project, taking the kids from the townships and teaching them skills they'd have for the rest of their lives. Usually you have to like watch circus from a distance, and it was fun to like actually do it ourselves.
I tried a handful of different things, and I mean, I think it went okay, you know. Obviously fairly fit from climbing, so I can kind of brute strength my way through a handful of the different activities. But then so many of them are like so highly specialized and require so much skill, like riding a unicycle. I mean, I couldn't even touch it, I couldn't do anything. Or like trying to juggle, I wouldn't be able to do it all. Like a lot of the things I just couldn't do at all. It's pretty fun though. I mean, the circus is basically like a big playground where everybody just has a good time and, tries cool things. I don't know if people think we're a couple. It seems like people, that would be the obvious thing, because they're both pro climbers, they're both traveling, we're on this trip together, and then we're both going to the States together.
And
it all
also,
seems very like...
And people wonder why I'm here, because they like know Alex, and like, who's the random girl? Oh, it must be his girlfriend, because there's like no other reason she'd be here.
Well, yeah, and then they see you climb, and it reaffirms that belief. They're like, at least she's good at belaying, except for when she broke his heel. But otherwise, she's quite a good belayer.
Yes, they probably either think that I'm like his girlfriend or his like special belayer bitch.
My special belayer.
Chico Gree.
Huh. That's nice. So I climbed the route Green Peas at the mine, and that's actually a perfect example of doing a route basically for the grade, or for the challenge that it would offer. It's sort of a striking line because it's a roof crack, like straight out a horizontal roof, so when you look at it, you're like, whoa, that's an obvious route. But aesthetically, it's not a beautiful line by any means. You're just kind of like, oh, that's kind of a gross looking roof crack. But it is actually quite challenging to climb, and it took me quite a long time to work out the moves and figure out the right sequence and figure out if or how it was possible. And so, I mean, that whole process of like unlocking the puzzle and then actually doing the moves. And the crux revolved around this crazy mono finger lock. Not even a finger lock, like a knuckle jam, where you just put your knuckle in and then you basically hang on it. When I first tried it, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna rip my finger out. And then I realized that I could actually put weight on it. And then I realized that I actually had to swing onto it. And then ultimately I did the route by swinging onto this crazy mono. And when I first tried it, I didn't even think it was possible, really. And so it's a pretty nice process to like realize that it is in fact possible, and I can in fact swing on a single knuckle without ripping my finger off. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It was fun. Kind of satisfying. Nice route.
The mine isn't my style of climbing, I don't think. I'm not really into like horizontal roofs and that kind of thing, but it's really good rock at the mine, and there's some cool holds and fun moves. It's a pretty fun place to climb.
Come on. That's it. Come on. Nice, Hazel.
I think if I keep trying something and I keep failing on it, eventually I'll get to the point where I find it difficult to deal with. But I think I generally deal with failure a bit better than a lot of other full-time climbers I know. I've never been like massively competitive. I'm a bit more relaxed and I'm really happy to like not be the best. I know that might sound like a bit counterintuitive, but I'd rather have fun and be happy than like be the absolute best I could be.
Failure is sort of like a constant thing in climbing. I mean, half the appeal is the challenge, and things are only challenging because you fail some of the time. One of the most important things in climbing is to choose the right kind of challenges, something where there's a real chance of failure, but if you do your best, you're able to succeed, and like finding that sweet spot, is like the rewarding part about climbing, I think.
Power endurance isn't my forte. Jesus.
So Hazel and I also went out into the Atlantic and swam around with Cape Fur seals, which is pretty cool, going snorkeling and seeing the seals swimming around you.
I really like diving with the seals. It's cool because you see a lot of seals in the UK, but they're mostly out of the water and they look all awkward. But in the water, they're just gorgeous, and yeah, it was really fun.
It is really cool seeing them in their natural environment like that, and they're so sleek and fast, and they're so playful. And actually, I really like seeing the kelp forest and just being tossed around by the waves and floating. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool experience.
Swing your hips twice, you know it feels right. Come on and dance with me.
Obsess over specific climbing projects the way some other climbers do, and I've obsessed less and less about it as I've gotten older, I think. 5 or 10 years ago, I definitely was more obsessed with like, oh, and then I'll stick the undercling and I'll grab it so hard. Now I'm kind of like, oh, it'd be great to climb the route, but I'm not like quite as invested in it maybe. But certainly like for the right kind of project, I get pretty deep into it, you get really psyched.
The Western Cape probably has some of the hardest big wall routes in Southern Africa. Way out there, huge exposure in the Cape Fold Mountains. The rock quality is superb, and it's lovely, it's wild, it's magnificent.
Yellowwood is considered a big traditionalist area. It's all about traditional climbing, no bolts, lots of big adventures like up this wall. But for me, it was super fun to follow a line of bolts straight through the steepest, most impressive climbing. And I was like, this is awesome. I do not care about ethics. I don't really care about bolting. I mean, I guess I care a tiny bit because if I see someone bolt a line that could easily be climbed on gear, I'm kind of like, that's a little lame. You may as well have just done it on gear. But I don't really care that much. Like I love clipping bolts. I love sport climbing. I like ease of use. I like convenience. I just like climbing a lot of stuff. And I just don't really buy into all the ethics. I don't like the dogmatic approach to climbing with like, oh, here's how you have to do it. People argue that something shouldn't be bolted, it should be done on gear. But you know, why not just argue that you shouldn't do it on gear, you should just solo it. You know, it's like, whatever, either way, you're just climbing it. It's like, who decides the rules? You know, I don't know. I just like to climb stuff. Climbing something on bolts is low commitment, it's fun, it's casual, and you're like, oh great, you can enjoy the movement, you just enjoy the climbing. Climbing it on gear is normally, or it's often a little more heads up, it's a little more psychologically demanding, so you put a little more into it, so then you get a little more out of it, I guess, which is probably why so many traditionalists are like so anti-bolt, because they want people to have that adventure, they want them to have that like climbing experience. But then when you solo stuff, you get even more of that climbing experience, and you know, more of that challenge and more of the reward, I guess. The thing with Newborn was that it was a nice route up like a nice part of the wall, really good climbing, but it was so cold that like it was hard to properly appreciate. Like my fingers are numb, my feet were numb. I felt like I was just gonna shoot off all the holds because my fingers felt so like glassy. And you know, so I mean it's hard to be like, oh what a beautiful route up, beautiful wall, when you're like, oh I just want to get to the top and put on a bigger jacket.
I'm like a bit less of a pansy, so
yeah, exactly.
I didn't mind the cold that much.
Whatever. You also had a better jacket.
I really appreciate the route.
And you're like so well insulated. You know.
I always say that.
Yeah, I know, I always say that.
Whatever the reason, I quite like the route. My favourite pitch was the pitch that Alex fell off of and I didn't.
That's not true. That was a terrible pitch. What was your real favorite pitch?
I don't know, maybe that second from last pitch.
Yeah, that was my favorite too. You mean with going out the roofs and then going up that cool panel? That was going to be my favorite also.
Yeah, cool last
like
move
the last,
around
like,
you're at.
Yeah, it's like a 27 pitch, winding out some roofs and like really interesting moves. Small little crimps, it was cool. It's one of the annoying things about traveling though, is that you always like travel somewhere to like check out the climbing, and then at the end of the trip you're like, oh, it turns out there's more to do. You know, it's very rare that you go to an area and you're like, and I've tapped it out, I'm never going back. I feel like you have this list of places you want to go and the list just gets longer and longer.
I love climbing because it takes me to remote wild places with my friends, and we share amazing adventures. And it's a combination of physical strength mixed with your mental control. That is a very interesting game.
South Africa has more density of experience than most places in the world. There's tons of great climbing, but then there's just so much else going on that you can just experience so much in like one trip there that you're like, wow, there's really a lot happening in South Africa.
I think the climbing's amazing and I think the country's beautiful.
Generally, when you go off the beaten path to like places that are sort of exotic and remote and all that, the climbing is like normally not so great. But here, like the climbing is as good as anywhere else, but you also get that adventure.
South Africa is one big adventure. Here in Europe, in the Western world, everything is so structured. Where back home in Africa, time has a different meaning. There's surprises, and life is exciting. And the best part about it is it's my home.
not good.